It is once again time for Line to Gain here on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. I am the Big O, Jerry Ostroski in Tulsa, Oklahoma. She is Sara Larson in the hub of all that is playoff professional sports right now. And if you're watching hockey like I was before I decided to rudely interrupt myself by doing this podcast tonight, which I'm really happy that we're doing. We haven't done one in a little bit. But 2-1 Florida.
Yep.
The Hurricanes came out tonight and basically looked like the Dallas Stars did last night. But they've given Bobrovsky a 2-goal lead, although it is 2-1. I just can't see them losing tonight. We could have 2 sweeps in the conference finals of the NHL, which is crazy to me. But, Sarah, you have to tell me. I would imagine that town's going a little bit crazy right now.
It is. And then obviously it's all, branching over into football, and everyone thinks, the Dolphins are, going to do crazy things as well. So everyone's talking about it. You have people, we are definitely not a hockey town down here at all, but you got a lot of people who are talking, hockey all of a sudden. I could pretty much walk if I really wanted to about 2.5 miles from the arena where they played on the street here. So it's definitely been exciting for them. I'm a Sabres fan, so I'm definitely not a Panthers fan, but I have went to some games and I do watch passively because the Sabres have been bad for so long that it's, fun to just watch and stuff. But them being in the same conference makes it a little hard to cheer them on. But, I've been excited for my Heat, them coming in as 8th seed. I definitely did not expect them to do as well as they did, especially against the Bucks, winning, beating the number 1 seed and then heading to New York and beating New York and now Boston. Last night was a little bit of a letdown, but, I think it's because I contemplated back and forth going to the game so much that I probably jinxed them a little bit. So we'll see. Hopefully we can close it out in Boston tomorrow night. So I'm looking forward to it.
I've seen that arena, Sarah. You made a comment that Miami's not a hockey town. I've seen that arena on television. If that's not a hockey town,
what's
I don't
funny,
know what one looks like because it is crazy.
We are Miami fans are very much fair weather fans, right. Florida fans, period. If nothing else is going on, or if there are nothing else to cheer for in the moment, we jump on board, whether it's football, baseball, hockey, whatever it is. So they're excited. They were an 8th seed as well. They're excited. And, like I said the other day, for the previous playoff matchup, when they won that, people were honking, going up and down the street. So they get into it. It's definitely fun. But it is South Florida, so a lot of people didn't know what hockey was growing up at all. So I think that it's, one of those things that they jump on board when there's nothing else really, to look forward to. So.
I will say this. I'm not a huge NBA fan. Obviously, I cheer for the Sixers because that's where I grew up. I kind of gravitate to certain players in the NBA, people that I like. I like their style. I like what they do. I've kind of got an ultimate list of players that I like. Allen Iverson is my all-time favorite player. Charles Barkley. I love Larry Bird. But I'm just telling you something. Jimmy Butler is becoming 1B. And I've always loved Jimmy Butler, but watching what he's doing in this playoff series, my Lord, I absolutely love Jimmy. I love his attitude. I love the way it works. I love the play defense in your chest, and he leads the team. And I'm just telling you, he is a refreshing player to watch.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I'm grinning ear to ear when we talk about Jimmy. He's been a breath of fresh air. Let's put it that way. When Dwayne Wade, retired. And actually, I was at his retirement game where they put his jersey into the rafters and everything. I was like, what is going to happen with the Miami Heat? Where are we going to go from here? But I've been very, I love watching him play. Like you said, I love his attitude. And, he thinks he's the best person on the court the whole time, and
But he
it's fun
is.
to watch. And it's fun to watch, and I'm glad other people are starting to notice it. A lot of people made a lot of comments when he chose to go to Miami. He chose to go to Miami so he could lead a team. It could be his team, and
Right.
team's
He wasn't going
his.
to do that in
So
Philly with Embiid.
correct.
Embiid's and unfortunately, they're going to sink with Embiid in the process because as much as I want to love Joel Embiid, um, Joker's probably the MVP again this season. I mean, I just can't. They give it to Embiid, they get
Yeah.
beat, don't even get out of the. I mean, it's just it's a constant with that crew. But I understand what
Right.
Jimmy was talking about. And he moves on. But hey, obviously we got football to talk about. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills. We're going to talk about the roster predictions. Sarah's put some work into putting up a master list of all the players. We'll show that up here in a little bit, and we'll
I'll
talk
just
about
put it
that.
up.
There it is right there. I'll let her go ahead and explain everything. But obviously, OTAs are taking place. Before we get into this, I do have to say something that was kind of cool today, the last couple of days. So my son, my oldest boy, Jackson, coaches at Drake University, which is in Des Moines, Iowa, which is literally 3 hours north of Kansas City. Yeah, Daryl, I hate that hoodie.
He's
So
just mad because the Heat beat the Knicks, so he's just mad.
exactly. Excuse me. By the way, I made a comment about the other day in our little group chat about you and the dogs and the fleas. Well, I must have hung out with the dogs too because I now got the fleas as well.
Okay,
But
so for people listening, I got back from my cruise with
yes,
bronchitis.
yes,
I am still battling it. Unfortunately, hopefully
yes.
I don't go through my coughing fit. Well, I put it in the group chat that I have had bronchitis, and Jerry put, "Well, if you hang out with dogs, you're going to get fleas." So now karma's a
Yes, karma is
yes.
exactly that. Or as our friend Fernando says, the young bird has hung out with the bats, and what's the rest of it? They
Something
did
about sleeping upside down or
yeah.
something.
So let's see. I'm like, hey man, whatever's going on in Brazil, I'm down with it. But
Right.
no, so my son Jackson, he's on the Drake staff. There's a member of the Kansas City Chiefs that is a Drake alum. He has spent the last 2 days in Kansas City at Chiefs OTAs, has met Andy Reid, the coaches, the players, and has been down there soaking it all in. So cool experience for him. But what's funny is, and I'm going to tell you this because it's going to morph into our conversation here in a minute. That's why I bring this up because it's pertinent. I said, "Hey man," I said, "What did you learn?" He goes, "Nothing." He's a tight end. He's a tight ends coach, and I'm like, "Nothing." They've got the best tight end in pro football on the roster. How do you not learn anything? He goes, "He's not a tight end. He's just a big ass wide receiver." And I had to laugh because nobody uses tight ends obviously the way everybody else used to use them anymore. Very few
Right.
do, and obviously Kansas City's not doing it either. So he got a chance to go down there to OTAs and had a good time, and maybe he got some intel that can help us later in the year. But
Yeah, there you
pretty cool experience for him.
go. That's pretty cool. So obviously OTAs is happening, and a couple of people haven't showed up. So we can put it out there. Stephon Diggs has not shown up.
Yep.
Again, people, it is voluntary. Let's
No. No.
I'm gonna say it is voluntary. He does not have to be there.
No.
So I get it from a team captain type of perspective.
That's why I wore my dude shirt today because it's all about the proper nomenclature, right?
We can agree to disagree. If to be honest with you, if my job said, "Hey, come to work. We're not going to pay you today. Just come to work for the fun of it," I'm going to say, "Screw you." So I get it. But I get it from a team captain perspective. You want to see everybody there. But I'm actually kind of glad he's not, because we're getting to see some of these other guys participate a little bit more than if he was there. So, but you can agree, you can disagree. I mean, there's a couple people
I'm
that aren't there. He's not the only one.
I'm disagreeing. I know I'm in the extreme minority because there are certain people that can do what they want and certain people that can't. And it's the old saying, you're off the field. It's like they say about guys that get in trouble. Your off the field issues better be, or your on the field talent better be bigger than your off the field issues. Obviously, guys like Diggs can get away with things because, well,
He's Diggs.
He's Diggs. But I will say this: if you're going to be that upset and that mad about the outcome of a playoff game, maybe you should show up with everybody else and show everybody that you want to work and try to rectify that situation this year. But that's just me.
Yeah.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. Someone else put, no need to worry about Diggs. Would be news if he was there. He hasn't been in years. So, definitely understandable. Chris put, I don't mind that he's not there, but I wish he was. We all do. We all want to be able to say, all 90 showed up to camp. Whether or not to OTAs, whether or not they're able to participate. Like Von's there. He can't participate, but he's still there. Matt Milano, I believe, I don't know if he was there today, but I believe he was not there yesterday. So, it's one of those things. Again, they shouldn't put the word voluntary in front of it if they expect everyone to, to come.
That's collective bargaining agreement, NFLPA, blah, blah, blah is all that is.
Understood that. All right. So anyways, we are finally at our 90 full roster heading into OTAs and everything. We picked up Dean Marlowe yesterday, so he is back on the roster, and Trayvon Howard, I believe. Who else did we pick up yesterday? I think that's what it was. So we're at 90. We sit at 90. I kind of went through the 53 before we brought Dean back and picked who I thought were kind of locks. Obviously, I'm still I'm still not 100% in agreement on a couple of people. I'm wondering. So I have 49 people who I feel like are a lock for this roster, not including Von. I feel like we'll put Von on the PUP list to start the season. So that means, if we have 49 people, that means we're allowed to pick 4 more. So then I went through and I picked.
Sarah,
yeah,
go
ahead.
Quick before I interrupt you. Chris said undrafted free agent tight end Joel Wilson was added yesterday. That's good.
Okay. So I don't even have him on here. I don't even have him on here yet. So that's who I missed. And of course, Chris knows. Chris knows everything. Legit everything. All right. So, pretty much went through. So quarterbacks, I think we're all pretty much in agreement. And if somebody, if someone thinks now with the new rule that we'll carry three quarterbacks, that's an interesting, perspective. But for those people who don't know, the NFL agreed upon allowing you to have one additional person on your active roster for game day that is not included in the 46 that you normally dress to be a quarterback. So the caveat to that though is they have to be on your 53-man roster. They cannot be called up from the practice squad to be considered that the additional active player. So some teams will probably carry 3 quarterbacks. I don't think we will. I think that we still carry 2. A lot of people made a lot of comments about playoffs. That makes a lot more sense. When you are, backs up against the wall, you want to make sure that you have, 100% someone that can come in an emergency situation. Then yes, I can understand carrying 3. I joked that Dawson Knox was a quarterback in high school. In a pinch, I'm sure he'd be our emergency quarterback.
No doubt. You're 100% correct.
During the year. So I think we'll still carry 2. I don't think, I don't think anyone would be in a disagreement with that. Running backs, I originally put 3. I'm more leaning, and I told you this before we got on the call, I'm more leaning for 4. I think we will carry 4. We did last year. And obviously that means that the one from the yellow, Latavius Murray, would be a definite at this point. So we would carry James Cook, Damian Harris, Nyheim Hines, and Latavius Murray. How do you feel about that? Do you think we keep 3 or 4?
Well, if we're going to keep 4, why are we going to not bring a? Now, where's our fullback?
He's over the next column. I have him separated.
You got him as a fullback. Okay, you got him separated. I mean, if you're going to keep, I don't think you're going to keep necessarily 5 running backs. I mean, Latavius Murray really is. Does he have that much left in the gas tank? That's a toss-up. The problem with carrying an extra running back on a team that doesn't want to run the ball enough is you got to take away from somewhere, and that somewhere is probably wide receiver. And you're going to want to make sure you have enough wide receivers.
I actually
So
think it'll be from tight end or offensive line. I think I think honestly we're going to go into the season with only 6 wide receivers. Usually, we kind of flirt with 7, but I think we'll only go in with 6. So, but we did keep 4 running backs
why?
last year and 1
Why?
fullback. So,
Why are we going to go with 6 tight? Why are we going to only go with 6 wide receivers?
because in my opinion, Dalton Kincaid is technically going to be that that wide receiver adjacent. So I think that that's kind of your 7th receiver, and then you got Dawson Knox as well. So I think that whereas last year we really only had one tight end on the field, we'll have more of a split or both at the same time out on the field. So I think you're taking away one from the wide receiver to add to the tight end group.
Okay.
Yeah, and Matt put Jillian makes the roster for special teams alone. And that's what happened last year. We kept 4 running backs and the fullback. One of the running backs was pretty much consistently special teams, which was Jones, and then Reggie, was also on special teams. This year it'll be Naheem Hines doing the special teams work for the most part, and then obviously Reggie as well. So that's my look there. But if that's the case, then we're already down to 3 from those yellow players that are questionable. You and I talked about the tight end group a little bit earlier, and you were like, well, if we want to run 12 personnel, we're going to have to keep Quentin Morris as well. I'm still on the the borderline for that. I think that keeping him I like Quentin Morris, but I don't necessarily know if we waste a roster spot on him.
Well, I mean, what I don't know, and I honestly don't believe that we're going to run a bunch of 12 personnel. I don't think that we are. I mean, we haven't in the past, and I don't think that 12 personnel is the great fix-all for this offense. I think that a more consistent running game is. I don't necessarily know if 12 is. You can mess around with Dalton Kincaid. Like I said on some other stuff, the thing that's nice about Kincaid is you can keep the same personnel group in the game and run multiple sets with the same personnel group because he can line up in the slot and do so much. So, I see that. I don't know. My whole thing about it is if you're going to keep it, I mean, Latavius Murray, are you going to waste? I shouldn't say waste. He's going to have to really show he's more towards the Latavius Murray of old to use a roster spot to keep.
He had 800 yards last year.
Okay? So, well, if that's the case, then stick him as the number 1 back.
Why would you do that when he's not necessarily the 3 down back? So, I mean, James Cook and Damian Harris, in my opinion, are going to are playing for that role.
Well, I want to see why we have all these running backs if we don't want to run the ball. That's what I mean. We're trying to pick this roster right now. I don't know what we're trying to do. I want to see what we're trying to do. I think the drafting of Kincaid is a big toss up. We got to see what they do at wide receiver. I don't think that offensive line group's going to look that way when the season's done. I think they'll cherry pick some people that are cut from some other places. I think we got glaring deficiencies at tackle, especially backup tackle. And I'm just nitpicking. But my thing is, I want to know what we're trying to run on offense. Are we trying to do the same thing we did last year? Now, I know that he came out and made the comment, or Josh made the comment, that it's very similar, but we got some new wrinkles and things like that.
Of course, they're not gonna
right.
say anything more than that.
But everything they did in the draft and what they've been doing, they're not going to hand the ball off 30 times, 25, 30 times a game. They're going to be passing oriented. So why do we have 95 million running backs if we're not going to pound the football?
Well, I think that I don't think we'll have 95 running backs. I think that if we have 4, it's going to be Cook, Harris, and Murray as actual running backs. Murray is going to be the short yardage and goal line. And then you have Hines coming in for special teams. He's going to be pretty much, your special teams guy. Now, again, maybe with the new rule, where any fair catch inside the 25-yard line, the ball automatically gets paid at placed at the 25. A lot of special teams coaches were against the
Right.
rule, and that's
Right.
probably because now you're rethinking, well, do we need someone who is a kickoff return specialist if we think most of the time we're just going to fair catch the ball, and then you're only pretty much worried about the punt returner. So there's a chance that maybe we only keep 3 running backs at that point. And I think that what we have to look at is, the other positions, because once you add a position on one line, you are subtracting it from the other. So we talked about offensive line, and at one point I was all in it with 10. I said, there's no way, David Edwards is on he's on this roster too. We're going to go into the season with 10. And then I feel like Nick will probably be, he was 7th round pick. He'll probably be, practice squad. But do we carry 10? We might only be able to carry 9 because of, again, you start looking at the other positions on this roster, and there's not a lot of space, for the 53 cut down. So, you and I talked about the offensive line. I think we're pretty much both in agreement that right now Dawkins, McGovern, Morris, Torrance, and Spencer Brown are going to be your starting 5. Bates is going to come in as kind of your interior alternate, and then Questenberry will be your tackle alternate. And then Tommy Doyle, and then you wonder what where does that leave Ike? Is he still going to be on the roster as for that depth piece? Tommy Doyle and Ike both being healthy, does that change things around a little bit? So someone just put Broker too. I think he'll be on the practice squad. I don't think he makes the team.
There's a chance they could carry 8. Will they? Probably not, but they could if you count Ryan Bates as a tackle, a guard, and a center, like Bean has said he can play.
Right.
The other thing is, I am not sold at all. Now, granted, somebody has made, there's been people affiliated with Dallas that said that McGovern's had injuries and his best football's ahead of him and all this. To me, it is not a lock. Okay, it's not a lock. You can only play 5 offensive linemen at a time, Daniel. It doesn't matter if you have 10. It's not a lock that McGovern beats out Bates. I honestly don't believe that, especially with Bates. If you're saying that Torrance, okay, now this is the other thing, is we're looking at Torrance in the 2nd round. We're saying, because, we've all said we only have so many first-round draft pick grades, and we only have so many, spots where they say, like we were saying, hey, later in the 1st round, you're probably not picking a starter anyway, so we might as well trade out of the 1st round and go to the 2nd round. Now we are saying convincingly that O'Cyrus Torrance is a day 1 starter. Probably is, but I don't think that's a lock. He's going to have to.
No, I think, yeah. I mean, I think Bates, I think Bates could start. The difference there is I feel like Bates is that he's more of a lock of being able to come in at any of the other positions. So why start him when he can come in to replace, the others?
Because you play your best 5. You don't sit a guy because he can play multiple spots.
My whole thing is, how far off will Torrance be from Bates? We have to find that out.
Well, unless Torrance just absolutely fails miserably, which I don't believe is going to happen, he's going to play day 1, because to get better, he's got to have game reps, and game reps are the only way you get better.
Agreed.
So he is going to play unless he just absolutely cannot get it done, which I don't think is going to be the case. But yeah, I mean, so really when you look at it, I just think that whole thing could really, I think it's pretty fluid O-line wise. I think they're going to be looking at waiver wires. I think they got to get better at tackle. And we'll see what happens there. But my whole thing is, if you're looking at your spots that you have up there, I guess probably the either or is if you're going to keep Latavius Murray, we're going to keep 4 running backs. So then who stays? Do you keep the guy? The battle would be for that spot would be either Quentin Morris or to me Reggie Gilliam. There's your 2 guys that are battling for that extra that spot. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it because I don't know. I think if you look at the wideouts, I don't know. Does one of those guys step up? Do we keep more than 6? I mean, obviously we got the practice squad to put guys on too. So, but
I don't think we keep more than 6. Yeah, I don't think we keep more than 6 because of the tight end group. I think that especially if we decide to keep 3 tight ends, I don't think we keep more than 6 wide receivers. And again, because Kincaid's going to come in and play like you were, talking about, he's going to be, playing in the slot more. Even if we don't, run the traditional 12 personnel, we could still definitely have 2 tight ends on the field, just, with Dalton in the slot. So, I think that my biggest question obviously on the offense is how many offensive linemen we keep, and then whether or not we keep, 3 or 4 running backs and the tight end. I think Reggie, between his contract and special teams, I think Reggie's a lock. Me personally, I just don't see us, cutting him unless we can find, a trade partner. We wouldn't get much, but that's a potential. So offensive line, I know you think we're going to bring other people in, but then it's like, well, who do you get rid of? I think that Sean would have to be very disappointed in the way some of these people shake out with the roster over, the course of camp and over the course of preseason for him to, completely get rid of, someone that he's been working with, obviously. So moving on.
Okay.
No, say what you're going to say.
No, I'm just saying we went from an offensive line that everybody thought was horrible and nobody wanted, and now all of a sudden we want to keep everybody and they're great. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just to me we've made one change in that, and obviously you got McGovern, but you picked Torrance. We'll see.
So we're replacing the biggest thorn that was in our offensive line last year. And we're adding McGovern there, hoping that with McGovern next to Dawkins starts to get his, footing back a little bit and plays like we think that he would, not that we think, plays that like we know he can play. And then Spencer Brown, you're hoping a healthy Spencer Brown is our answer at tackle, right tackle. Obviously, we all have questions about Spencer Brown. They don't have as many questions as we do because they didn't even really look at right tackle at all during the draft. So
they didn't look at any tackle during the draft. Now they picked
or free agency. Yeah. And it obviously looks like they feel like Brown is the answer there. So a healthy Brown. So I know that you and Fina both said he was injured last year. And hopefully that was the cause of him having such a bad year, and he can get back to where he was 2 years ago, looking like we got a steal in the draft. So.
I think that you put Brown, and if Torrance plays to what everybody thinks he's going to be, you put those 2 together, you've got a tremendously physical right side of the offensive line that could be, tone setters, and that makes me very, very happy. I have no idea what McGovern's going to do other than bring in some veteran help. I don't really think he's that big of an upgrade over Bates. If he is an upgrade over Bates, to be perfectly 100% honest with you. Mitch Morris is Mitch Morris. He's a rock. He's solid. Dion, when motivated and on, is top 5 in the league.
We're on the same page there. And we both made those comments. Yeah.
Right. So, look at it how you want to look at it. If you start getting injuries, that's where things, really, start to have issues. So anyway, I mean, and I kind of see where you're coming from. with Kincaid, you got another. He's basically like another wide receiver, but he's got to count against the tight end group. We see what they do with Morris. If Gilliam's that good special teams wise, then he probably stays. So, really not many earth-shattering moves really to be made on offense.
All right. So heading over to defense, obviously our, defensive end group, I'm, with Von, saying he'll be back by, week 6 at the latest. I think we start him on the PUP list. So then I have Rousseau, Boogie, AJ Espinosa, and then Shaq Lawson. I obviously feel like you got to keep 4 until Von comes back. How do you feel?
You're going to move
when Von comes back?
Yeah,
probably Shaq or Boogie. I think AJ, we keep on for the rest of the season, just because of his youth. Boogie obviously is young as well, but he just hasn't, in my opinion, showed much yet. AJ has showed flashes. I think AJ is better when Von's on the field, but so is everybody else. So right. Greg Rousseau definitely was better in the first half of the season than the second half. So hopefully Von does come back, quicker than anything else. But when you look at, monetarily speaking, the easiest people to cut. So the ones with the, least amount of, dead cap and everything else. That's why I said Shaq. I understand Shaq is one of the most important pieces, as, personnel wise, the way he is, the motivating, he's one of the people that works the hardest, even though he's getting paid the least. But he's got a pretty much expendable contract. So it's easier to release somebody like that than it is some of the others.
Yeah, I kind of agree with. I agree a little bit with Matt with Matt, and then Spence made some comments about AJ. I'm not sure where the fit is with him and what we're doing. He's a little different now. Obviously, I think maybe you take a chance on a guy that you think he can produce, and you make into a pure pass rusher, which he kind of is more that type of player. That's funny.
You guys are killing me with my hoodie.
That's funny.
Come on.
That's hilarious.
No. But
no, seriously, because here's the wild card to me. Okay, I'm going to throw this one at you, and then you can debate this one the rest of the show. This will blow your mind. I still think that Ed Oliver is going to be a swingman with McDermott. I think you will see Ed play some outside this year. Now, I could be wrong.
Well, we talked about that in the past, and I actually said that I was going to say it on Twitter, and then I was like, I will get roasted if I say move Ed outside. So I ended up not saying it. Right. Ironically, you and I ended up having a conversation about it a couple days later on our show. So if we keep 5 defensive tackles, which I think we will, I definitely think we will, unless we can find a trade partner for Ed prior to the season starting. I think if we want to keep these big 300-pound guys in the middle, they're killing me. Absolutely killing me.
I'm laughing because I think and by the way, I got to say real quick before I digress, Joab Somerville in the comments, my man here in Tulsa, runs the Tulsa Bills backers. He said he'd get you a Tulsa Bills backers sweatshirt so you wouldn't have to wear that heat sweatshirt.
Hey, I send me. But I love getting hoodies from especially from Bills backers.
You have a game streak of how many games in a row, Sarah?
42.
42 games. You have at least a streak of every show we've ever done, and maybe more, that you have made the comment, when we move and get rid of Ed Oliver, when we move Ed Oliver, when we trade Ed Oliver, when we Ed Oliver.
I'm all about positive reinforcement and speaking things into existence.
You are trying, girl. You are trying your best.
I don't feel like he is he's a fit, especially with what we are looking to accomplish on defense. Again, whether or not it's on paper or not, it looks like we are trying to get bigger in the middle and faster on the ends. So I, in my opinion, think that the four guys that we have between Daquan Jones, Tim Settle, Jordan Phillips, and now Puna Ford, they're all freaking bowling balls in the middle. Ed Oliver sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yep.
He's 30 pounds less than the smallest other defensive tackle we have. I think it would be interesting to see how he does on the outside. He's a little bit slower than obviously Vaughn and the other defensive ends that we have, because he's 20 pounds heavier than they are. But I think it would be an interesting little caveat to the defense, and I'd like to see if they try it.
I think it'll help us in the run game. I think it'll help us in first and second down as far as stopping the run. But I'm with you when I look at the Puna Ford signing. To me is what solidified it. And you start talking about really big men on the inside. You got Jones, Settle, Phillips, Ford, and then Ed. So Ed does provide benefits, however, inside and third down. If you will scheme inside pass rush over guards with a guy like him that is quicker, that is an athletic mismatch, you can do a lot of damage with a guy like him. So I love him on third down inside. I even love him on third down over the center. But I think that you in the early downs, if it's not a pass, you very well might see him outside. So when is Vaughn supposed to come back? By the way, I know you know this.
He said yesterday he guaranteed he will be back before week 6.
Okay.
Guaranteed that he'll be back
if
before
he's
week
put
6.
on the pup list, when's the earliest he can come back?
4 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. I don't know. That'll be interesting.
Very I think the next 2 position groups are my biggest questions, which is linebacker and corner. Obviously, I don't think we're at the point in time. I mean, Dorian Williams is 100% on the team. Matt Milano is 100% on the team. Then you got Dotson, Bernard, AJ Klein, Balin Spector, and Tyler Matakovich. Whether or not how that all plays out. I know Tyler is a captain on special teams. I get it. Most people think I'm absolutely ridiculous by putting him in yellow. I get it. But again, we only have 53. So I think that, we're going to keep 5 linebackers. The question is, who's the 5th? So I think it's AJ Klein for sure. But most people think that we're going to keep 6. But that still leaves Spector and Matakovich, like whether or not they're, we're kind of picking between the two of them. So how do you feel about the linebacking group, especially considering we're not 100% sure who's our starting linebackers and whether or not we're going to start, we're going to have, linebacker and in a week all the time. We've joked about it before by having, or not they're going to have, 6 defensive backs out there and 1 linebacker. We've joked about it. Now it's starting to become a little bit more of a conversation. I was just having the conversation yesterday about it again. So I think that, we got to see, Dorian Williams, whether or not he'll be that true, middle linebacker, the actual Mike spot, or if they're going to, switch some things around. How do you feel about the linebacker position?
I believe we won't keep 4. I think we'll keep 6.
Oh, no, I don't think we'll keep 4 either. I'm kind of debating between 5 or 6. The 5th is between, the 5th and 6th. Okay.
I think we'll keep 6. And I think that if McTavish is that good special teams wise, you just told me that we're never going to get rid of Reggie Gilliam because he's that good on special teams. McTavish is that same person, maybe more. So you keep a spot for a guy like that. I think your battle for that group is between Klein and Spector for that last spot. I think they take 6. Do they dress
Now,
out 6? No, but I think they keep 6.
now Dorian Williams and Justin Shorter and Trent Sherfield all have that new special teams. Dorian Williams day one, Justin Shorter day one. They're going to be starters on special teams. Sherfield is also going to, probably take the position of can't think of his name all of a sudden. Touchdown Jesus. I can't think of his name all of a sudden. They're going to, he'll probably take that, position away right away, considering he's no longer on the team. So there are some people that are new that could replace some of these other players. Jake Kumaro. Thank you, Chris. I knew Chris would know. But it's one of those things that, do we still keep 6 linebackers? I know traditionally we do. But then again, if we're moving away from that mindset a little bit, and trying to get a little smaller, a little faster, then maybe we keep an additional safety instead. So for corners, do you feel like we keep 5, 6? How do you feel about corners?
Well, you're going to have to probably keep, and you don't have any hybrid safety corner types. Benford is obviously playing corner and corner only. That's been stated recently. That's what he's going to do. He's not taking any safety reps. I would think you're going to have to take 6 corners. I mean, if you're playing nickel, you've already got 5 of them out there, right? I know you can have some safeties, but still, I think you have to keep 6 of them. And then, now granted, we're talking about things where we also know that they'll be able to lock guys up on practice squad and do some different things there too. And who those guys are, we don't know. But I think they take 6. You keep talking about playing 3 safeties. I don't see the third guy that has to play in that group.
Taylor Rapp.
I mean, I hope the first 2 can stay healthy enough to play over half the season. And the third one to me is still a toss-up. We don't know. I mean, they say
Hamlin?
Fine. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We have no clue. And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% on, now that we've signed Dean Marlowe back, I'm not 100% on Hamlin making the team over Dean. And I'm probably going to get, a whole bunch of, stare downs for that one. I understand what Hamlin's went through, and, but we're acting like was an all-pro safety prior to his, incident. So it's not really the case. Can he hold his own? Yeah. Did he come in and, and was he a decent replacement for, for Hyde and Poyer? Yeah. Like, at times when it needed. But I feel like Marlowe's more of that safety, that safety valve that if we want to have come in, and the veteran presence, granted Poyer and Hyde are both veterans as well. I'm just not guaranteed. I know it's a PR nightmare if they were to let go of Hamlin, but I don't know if they care 100% on the optics as much as they care about winning a Super Bowl. So, and Chris just put Hamlin making the team is really up to Hamlin. No way the team cuts him. Again, optics. So I get that. I 100% get that. I'm just saying at this point in time, I'd rather us make sure that we have the best players on the team, not necessarily, the best optics at this point. And I know that's terrible because of everything this team has went through. But it is what it is. So,
but the other thing about this whole thing, it's a toss up, is McDermott. McDermott's running the defense now. So where is he going to, I'm sure that while he had his hand in everything on the team, he still allowed Frazier to make some calls, some choices. It was his defense. So I will say this: if you are going to play for McDermott, you better be able to run and you better be physical. So, those are two things that he keeps in high regard. But I mean, it's so hard to do right now. I mean, because we really don't know what he wants to put an onus upon. What does he really want to put out there? Is it 4-2-5? Is it a 4-2? What are they going to run? Then offensively, same thing. What are the tweaks? But yeah, there will be a couple tough decisions, and there's always those couple players. Well, like in the comments earlier tonight. Well, there's no way they're going to put Sara Neal on the practice squad. He'll get picked up right away. Well, then who else are you going to let go? Well, if you let go Cam Lewis, somebody else is going to pick him up. If you let go Alex Austin, somebody will pick him up. So I mean, that's a good thing for us. That's a good thing, saying that we've got that much talent, that we've got guys that no matter what you do with them are going to get picked up. But at the end of the day, you make the best decision for your team and you move on. And if they get picked up, they get picked up. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because we've already talked about potentially keeping Murray as the fourth running back, potentially keeping Quentin Morris if we want to keep 3 tight ends, potentially keeping 10 offensive linemen. That's already 3 from the yellow, if that was the case. You said 6, that we keep 6 linebackers. That means that we're taking 2 more from the yellow. That's impossible. We would already be at 54. So there is a good chance that we only keep 3 running backs then, and that we only keep 2 tight ends, and we only keep 9 offensive linemen, because if push comes to shove, we're going to need those the roster spots for the additional linebacker, for the additional corner.
But here's the other thing, Sarah. Here's the other thing that we haven't gotten into. You talk about, you put the players in the green. It does not shock me if AJ Epinesa and Shaq Lawson, one of those two, if not both of them, are gone. That's not necessarily saying they're both, I don't necessarily think they might not both be here. If Ed's going to play swing and he can play defensive end and tackle, one of those guys is expendable. Do you really need to keep 10 defensive linemen? Have they done that in the past? Every year they kept 10? I mean,
I normally I would say that we would only be keeping 4 defensive tackles, but I'm, obviously, I don't see us, Tim Settle might be the expendable person at this point, but with his age being so young, I don't see it. Jordan Phillips.
The Poona Ford signing was a warning shot to somebody.
Oh, of course. I agree. I agree.
So if Jordan Phillips can't stay healthy, you move Jordan. I mean, I think 2 guys I think 1 guy in each column that right now we have in green, they're more than likely not going to be there when the season starts. And if Jordan Mims or Isaiah Browser, if they show prominent, production in the preseason, well, you move one of those running backs, which is probably Latavius, and you put one of them. If you're happy with the other 3, or it's Hines or whoever, if you have another return man, and you put one of those 2 on the practice squad, now you got your 4 running backs. But one of them has to be on the practice squad. Yeah,
I think no matter what, one of them will be on the practice squad regardless. But you make a good point. Maybe we only keep 3 running backs if we're keeping Reggie.
But it's the same thing with your tight ends. If Zach Davidson or the other kid we just signed, if they shine, do you go ahead and you move a Quentin Morris and reduce salary by moving him and put one of those 2 on the practice squad, and you got your 3 tight ends? Reggie plays the emergency spot, and if you need the young guy next week, you bump him up. So there's going to have to be a lot of that going on as well.
Yeah, and there's a chance that if we let Quentin Morris go, no one signs him, and then he's on the practice squad. It's a risk, but it's one of those things that there's definitely a chance. Yeah. So and it's going to be the same thing with our offensive line. We say it every year. Oh my God, I can't believe we're cutting this person to that person. And then they end up getting picked up for offensive line. But if we're cutting somebody on the offensive line, there's a good chance that, like you said, we're picking up somebody else that's been cut to see how they shake out. on our practice squad.
I
So
look at your list of linemen. I think Dawkins, McGovern, Morris, Torrance, Bates, Brown, and probably Quisenberry, just because of our lack of tackle talent, are locks. And then after that, it's a toss-up.
yeah. All right. This is the part of the year that always makes me uneasy, trying to knock it down. Especially after, camp happens and then we go into preseason and we get to see all these guys play. You end up having your little favorites and stuff, and then so it's always hard to have people be cut. But we showed it last year, that there are going to be people that the team has absolutely no problem cutting, even if it affects the cap. They don't care. They want the best people that give us the best chance to win out on the field.
Well, let me ask you this. Let me since we're all going to step over lines today and say things that are make people act a little stupid, which is fine with me. I don't care. I don't care what people think. But you mentioned this before, Sarah, and I thought it was a great point. Are we so sure that Trey White makes this football team?
I mean, yes. I think at this point in time,
or Micah Hyde. Was it Micah or was it Trey? Did you bring up Trey or did you bring up Micah?
I said I brought up Trey right. Back in previously, that he could be someone that we traded, but they with his contract the way it is, even trading him, it's such a loss that there's no I don't see the benefit of it at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
But so those are the types of earth-shattering things that happen that just people don't even see coming, but they happen.
Right. Yeah, of course. And, I think that there's a few people that, we've extended or we've restructured at this point in time. They're pretty much locks. They're not going anywhere. So, there's a few people that there's not going to go anywhere. Trey, though, has got to step up from where he was last year. He definitely was not the Trey White of old, and I hope he can get at least a fraction of that back. I don't think he'll ever be, that guy ever again, right. And that happens a lot with knee injuries. I just hope that we can get him back at a fraction of what he used to be, because it's needed at this point. I think that Benford eventually will be moved. I don't think he'll stay at corner forever. I think that, that's one of the things McDermott loves to do. Both Poyer and Hyde were corners that were converted to safety. I think that he sees something in Benford. I think that he will transition him over. Alec Austin is another one that will probably at least keep on practice squad. He's another person that can be definitely converted from a corner to a safety. He's played both and feels, it's definitely one of those things that he could become, a new safety down the road.
I agree.
All righty. Well, I think that's it. I, haven't really seen too much more. Everyone's pretty much echoing the same thing with Trey, just taking the year and a half to get better. So hopefully, mid-season he reaches his peak and comes out and just is the old Trey White. Vaughn, I hope Vaughn sits back a little bit, and I hope we keep him out. We need him at the end of the season. I think that the way that the schedule is, we're going to need him in the back half of the season more than anything. And I think that that's the schedule makers kind of knew that. So, they definitely backloaded our schedule. Most of our important games are November on. So I hope Vaughn does, chill for a little bit. And I hope he doesn't rush it. So,
well, I don't think they'll let him rush it. I don't think they'll let him rush it. But let's look real quick so you can go out and run in the streets and celebrate. Let's see if we're going to have a.
Well, while you're looking that up, while you're looking that up, Matt just put Austin will make the 53. Again, when you say that's another person that we're taking off of this list that most people think are locks. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes up this summer.
Into 2, Florida Panthers 3, Carolina Hurricanes 2.
They just scored a goal, yeah.
So 3-2.
I have it on, but it's on mute.
So, by the way, if you're watching, we appreciate you. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're on sporadically through the off seasons. We get closer to the season. Training camp starts. We'll be on weekly. And we'll be back on our Thursday night time frame. We'll be on at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. We won't have a show next week. We'll probably have one. No, it'll be 2 weeks. We won't have a show because I'll be on vacation. Yeah. I leave Thursday, come back that's following Saturday. So, but after that, we'll be back. Sarah, you're going to be on the leading the charge, are you not?
Yeah, I'm gonna join leading the charge next Tuesday. Go chat it up with our representative from Brazil, so that'll be fun. Fernando's doing some great things, so haven't quite figured it out if it's gonna be Sunday or Tuesday, but I will be joining him sometime next week probably. So it'll be fun.
Fernando's a good dude. I had a great time on his show this Sunday. And I'm happy you get a chance to go on with him. It's pretty cool, especially when he starts rolling in the Portuguese. It is interesting.
Yeah, I definitely don't know Portuguese, so he's gonna, have to help me out with all that. So no.
So hey, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I've watched quite a bit of his shows, and it's crazy how much we get, how much of a following we have in Brazil. So it's definitely going to be fun to hang out.
So, hey, for all our peoples in the comment section, thanks for coming in and joining in and interacting with us. And if you're watching live, thanks for coming and watching. Again, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button. We are on the Buffalo Rumblings Network. This is Line to Gain. She is Sara Larson. I am the big O, Jerry Ostroski. We'll be back in a few weeks with more Bills talk, more football talk, as we head towards the end of July, which means it's the start of training camp and the start of another NFL season. So with that, I will always say the same thing as usual. One love and go Bills.
Go Bills.